I remember the exact moment my world started to crack. It was a quiet Tuesday evening in our cozy living room, the kind where the sun dipped low and painted everything in soft gold. I'd just finished folding a load of laundry, his shirts mostly, still carrying that faint scent of his cologne mixed with the dryer sheets I always used. The phone rang, breaking the silence like a distant thunder. I picked it up without thinking, expecting it to be one of his colleagues from work. But the voice on the other end was a woman's, soft and hesitant, asking for Daddy. My heart skipped, not in alarm at first, but in confusion. We didn't have a daughter old enough to call like that. Our girls were still little, tucked in bed upstairs. "I'm sorry," I said gently. "You must have the wrong number." There was a pause, then a child's giggle in the background, and the woman whispered something I couldn't catch before hanging up. I stood there, phone in hand, staring at the screen as if it held some secret. It was just a wrong number, I told myself, but deep down, a tiny seed of doubt took root, the kind that grows quietly in the dark. That was the hook that pulled me into the unraveling. But to understand why it hit me so hard, you have to know how things were before. My name is Elena, and for 23 years I'd built a life with Marcus that felt as solid as the oak table in our kitchen where we'd shared countless meals. We met in college. He was the charming guy in my economics class, always with a quick smile and a way of making you feel like the only person in the room. I was studying nursing back then, drawn to helping people, fixing what was broken. Marcus worked in sales for a tech company, the kind that required him to travel a lot. Business trips, he'd call them, packing his suitcase with that efficient rhythm I'd come to know so well. 2 weeks here, a month there, always to some city on the East Coast or down south. He'd call every night, his voice warm over the line, telling me about boring meetings and how much he missed my cooking. Our home was in a quiet suburb outside Chicago, a 2-story house with a backyard where the girls, Sophia, 8, and Mia, 6, played on the swing set Marcus had built himself one summer. I'd watch them from the kitchen window, their laughter mixing with the sizzle of dinner on the stove. Mornings were my favorite. Marcus would wake early, brew coffee that filled the air with its rich, earthy aroma, and we'd sit at the counter, his hand brushing mine as he passed the mug. "You're my anchor, Elena," he'd say sometimes, his eyes locking on mine with that intensity that still made my stomach flutter after all these years. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? Our life wasn't perfect. Money was tight some months, and his trips left me handling everything alone, but it was ours. I'd work my shifts at the hospital, come home to homework and baths, and collapse into bed, dreaming of the weekends when he'd return with little gifts, a scarf for me, stuffed animals for the girls. The girls adored him. Sophia had his dimples, Mia his curiosity. "When's Daddy coming home?" they'd ask, marking days on the calendar with colorful stickers. I'd smile and say, "Soon, always soon." His family was close too. His mother, Rita, lived a few blocks away and would drop by with casseroles, her warm hugs smelling of lavender soap. "You're good for him, Elena," she'd say, patting my cheek. "Keeps him grounded." My own parents were gone, lost to a car accident years ago, so Rita became like a second mother to me. We'd gossip over tea, her stories of Marcus as a boy making me laugh, the time he tried to build a treehouse and ended up with a sprained ankle. It all felt so normal, so right. Friends envied us. At neighborhood barbecues, Marcus would grill burgers, his laugh booming as he teased the kids. I'd catch him looking at me across the yard, that private smile just for us. But even in those good times, there were little things I pushed aside, like how his trips seemed to stretch longer over the years, or the way he'd sometimes come back quieter, lost in thought. I'd ask if everything was okay, and he'd pull me close, his arms strong around me, murmuring, "Just work stress, love. Nothing a night with you can't fix." I'd melt into him, the familiar warmth of his chest against my cheek chasing away any fleeting worry. After all, trust was the foundation we'd built everything on. Or so I thought. That erosion of certainty started subtly. One evening, about a month after that strange phone call, I was unpacking his suitcase from a trip to Atlanta. It was routine. I'd sort the dirty clothes, check pockets for receipts or loose change. My fingers brushed something unfamiliar in the side pocket, a small photo, wallet-sized, of a little girl with curly hair and a gap-toothed smile. She looked about Mia's age, but I didn't recognize her. On the back, in unfamiliar handwriting, "Miss you, Daddy, love, Lila." My heart skipped, not in alarm at first, but in confusion. We didn't have a daughter old enough to call like that. Our girls were still little, tucked in bed upstairs. "I'm sorry," I said gently. "You must have the wrong number." There was a pause, then a child's giggle in the background, and the woman whispered something I couldn't catch before hanging up. I stood there, phone in hand, staring at the screen as if it held some secret. It was just a wrong number, I told myself, but deep down, a tiny seed of doubt took root, the kind that grows quietly in the dark. The next clue came a week later. I was paying bills online, logging into our joint account like always. There was a transfer I didn't recognize, $500 to an account in Georgia labeled Family Support. My stomach twisted. Marcus handled the finances mostly, but this? I asked him casually over dinner, the girls chattering about school. "Oh, that?" He paused, fork midway to his mouth, his eyes flicking away for just a second. "It's for a colleague down south, helping with some family stuff. No big deal." His smile was there, but it didn't reach his eyes. I nodded, forcing a laugh, but inside questions swirled like leaves in the wind.
Why not tell me before? And why family? I tried to bury it. Lord knows I tried. For weeks I went through the motions, packing school lunches, kissing Marcus goodbye at the airport curb, waving until his car disappeared around the corner. But every time he left, that little photo of Lila burned in my mind, and the unexplained transfers sat heavy in my chest like a stone. The real unraveling started one rainy afternoon when the girls were at school and I had a rare day off. I was in the spare bedroom we used as an office, sorting through old tax files Marcus kept in a locked drawer. He'd given me the key years ago, in case anything ever happened to me, but I'd never needed it. That day, something pulled me to it. My hands shook a little as I turned the key, the click loud in the quiet house. Inside were folders labeled neatly insurance, retirement, property. But tucked at the back was a thin manila envelope I'd never seen. No label. I opened it carefully, the paper crinkling under my fingers. What fell out made the room tilt. Birth certificates. 2 of them. The first was for a boy named Caleb Marcus Reed, born 12 years ago in Savannah, Georgia. Father, Marcus James Reed. Mother, Tamara Lynn Hayes. The second was for a girl, Lila Grace Hayes Reed, born 6 years ago. Same parents. My knees buckled. I sank into the desk chair, the papers trembling in my lap. The dates lined up perfectly with Marcus's longest business trips. The 12-year-old would have been conceived right after Sophia was born, when Marcus spent 3 months opening the Atlanta office. Lila came during that long stretch in Savannah when he'd told me the company was restructuring and he had to be on site. I don't know how long I sat there. Rain tapped against the window like impatient fingers. My mind replayed every late-night phone call, every time he'd come home exhausted but smiling, every "I love you" whispered before he fell asleep, all of it built on sand. Eventually, I gathered the certificates and slipped them back into the envelope, my movements slow and deliberate, like I was handling something fragile that might shatter me if I moved too fast. I locked the drawer, put the key back in the little ceramic dish on the dresser, and went downstairs to start dinner. Meatloaf, his favorite. I seasoned it with the same hands that had just held proof of another life, another family. That night, he came home from a short trip to Charlotte. The girls tackled him at the door, their squeals filling the house. He scooped them up, one in each arm, laughing that deep laugh I used to love. I stood in the kitchen doorway watching, a smile plastered on my face that felt like plastic. "It smells amazing in here," he said, walking over to kiss my cheek. His lips were warm, familiar. For a second, I almost leaned into it out of habit. Then the scent of his cologne, the same one he'd worn for years, mixed with something else, a faint trace of women's perfume, light and floral, not mine. I pulled back gently. "Long day?" "Brutal," he sighed, loosening his tie. "But I'm home now." Home. The word tasted bitter. Over the next few weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize, a quiet investigator in my own marriage. I started small, checked his phone when he showered, heart pounding so loud I was sure he'd hear it through the bathroom door. Nothing obvious, no secret contacts labeled Tamara or hearts next to a number, but there was a frequent one saved under T. Hayes, client. Calls at odd hours, texts that read like logistics. Flight lands 8:45, kids okay, need anything from the store. I took screenshots and emailed them to a new account I made just for this. Evidence, I told myself, not because I wanted to catch him, but because I needed to know how deep the lie went. Then came the credit card statements. He'd always said separate cards were smarter for taxes, so I only ever saw ours. But one night, while he slept, I logged into the business account he used for travel expenses. The charges told a story clearer than any confession. Monthly payments to a property management company in Savannah, grocery deliveries to an address on East 42nd Street, tuition to St. Andrew's Episcopal School, $18,000 a year, pediatric copays, a jewelry store purchase on Valentine's Day, the same day he'd brought me chocolates and said the client dinner ran late, and plane tickets, dozens of them, not just to Atlanta or Charlotte, but direct flights to Savannah every other weekend for years. I printed everything, page after page sliding out of the printer in the dark office, the soft whir the only sound. I stacked them neatly in a new folder hidden behind nursing textbooks in the basement. The hardest part wasn't the proof. It was watching him play daddy to our girls while knowing he had others, tucking Mia in, reading her the same stories, helping Sophia with math homework, praising her the way he must praise Caleb, kissing me goodnight like nothing had changed. One evening, about 2 months after finding the certificates, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Not the full truth, I wasn't ready for that explosion, but a test. We were washing dishes side by side, the girls in the living room watching a movie. Steam rose from the sink, fogging the window. "Marcus," I said quietly, scrubbing a pan harder than necessary, "do you ever think about having more kids?" His hand stilled in the soapy water, just for a second, but I caught it. "We've got our hands full with these two," he said, voice light, "and you're always saying how exhausting the hospital shifts are." "I know, but sometimes I wonder what another little one would be like. A boy, maybe." He laughed softly, drying a plate. "Sophia and Mia are perfect. Let's not tempt fate." I nodded, drying my hands on the dish towel. "You're right, we're blessed." But inside, something hardened. He wasn't just lying to me, he was choosing every day which family got his truth. That night, I lay awake beside him, listening to his breathing. I thought about Tamara. Who was she? Did she know about me? Did their children know they had sisters in Illinois? Did she wait for him the way I did, counting days on a calendar? I didn't cry. Not then. The tears would come later. Right then, I felt a strange calm settle over me, the kind that comes when the worst has already happened and you're just waiting for the rest of the world to catch up. I knew what I had to do. Not scream, not throw him out in a rage, That would give him the drama, the chance to play victim or beg or manipulate. No, I would be quiet, methodical, and when the time came, I would make sure both of them felt the weight of what they'd built on my back for 23 years. The plan formed slowly, like frost creeping across a window pane. I didn't rush it. Rushing would have meant mistakes, and after years of being the steady one, the one who held everything together while he flitted between lives, I owed myself precision. First, I needed to know her, Tamara, not just as a name on a certificate, but as a person. Who was this woman who'd shared my husband without knowing it? Or did she know? That question gnawed at me during my night shifts at the hospital, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead as I checked vitals and dispensed meds. Patients would talk about their families, their regrets, and I'd nod sympathetically, all while my mind mapped out steps. I started with public records. From my laptop in the break room during lulls between rounds, I searched property databases. The address from the credit card statements popped up. A modest ranch-style house in Savannah, bought 8 years ago in both their names, Marcus and Tamara Hayes Reed. Hayes Reed. He'd given her his name, or at least part of it. We weren't even hyphenated. I was just Elena Reed, plain and simple. Social media came next. Tamara wasn't hard to find. Her Facebook profile was open, photos spilling out like a life I could have lived. There she was, mid-40s like me, with warm brown eyes and curls pinned back, smiling at a school event with Caleb, who had Marcus's chin, Lila on her hip at a beach picnic, the ocean behind them, and Marcus, in the background of a few, his arm around her waist, laughing at something off camera. No direct tags, but the timestamps matched his trips. "Family day out," one caption read. My throat tightened as I scrolled, the hospital's sterile air suddenly too thick. Did she know? Her post seemed genuine. Anniversaries marked with hearts. 10 years with my rock. 10 years? That meant it started right after Sophia was born, when I'd been drowning in new motherhood and he'd needed that long assignment. I saved everything. Screenshots in a hidden folder on my cloud drive, password protected. Evidence wasn't just for confrontation, it was for protection. If this went to divorce, and it would, I'd need it for custody, for assets. But confrontation wasn't my goal. Not yet. I wanted her to see it first, to feel the same slow dawning I had. So I created an anonymous email account, concernedfriend912@gmail.com. 912 was Savannah's area code, a little detail to make it feel local. The first message was simple. "Tamara, I think we need to talk about Marcus. He's not who you think. Check these." I attached a few photos, our wedding picture from 23 years ago, Sophia and Mia's school portraits with Marcus beaming beside them, and a scan of our marriage certificate. I hit send on a Thursday night, Marcus asleep upstairs after a tiring day at the office. My hands were steady as I closed the laptop, the soft click echoing in the quiet kitchen. Then I poured myself a glass of wine, the cheap red we kept for weeknights, and sat at the table watching the clock tick past midnight. Her reply came 2 days later while I was grocery shopping. The ping on my phone made me pause in the produce aisle, apples forgotten in my hand. "Who is this? How do you know Marcus?" I didn't respond right away. Let her stew, I thought. That evening, from the parking lot after work, I sent more. Bank statements showing the transfers, blurred just enough to hide account numbers, but clear on the family support label. "He's been married to me longer than he's known you. We have 2 daughters. He's living a double life." This time her response was faster, frantic. "This can't be true. Prove it." I sent the birth certificates, ours first, then theirs. "Look at the dates. He's been flying back and forth for years. Silence for a day. Then, oh God, I had no idea. He said he was divorced. Divorced. The word hit like a slap. So that's what he told her. I was the ex, neatly tucked away in the past. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, anger bubbling up. But I kept it calm. We need to meet, without him knowing. Can you come to Chicago? Or I can come there. She agreed. Savannah, next weekend. Marcus was scheduled for a trip anyway, to her, ironically. I'd tell him I was visiting an old nursing friend in Atlanta. He'd never question it. The days leading up blurred into normalcy. I cooked his favorites, spaghetti with homemade sauce, the kind that simmered all afternoon, filling the house with garlic and tomato. Helped the girls with crafts, their little hands sticky with glue. Kissed Marcus goodbye at the door, his suitcase in hand. Be safe, I said, my voice even. He pulled me close, his breath warm on my neck. Always am, love. The flight to Savannah was turbulent, rain lashing the windows. I rented a car at the airport, drove through palm-lined streets to a coffee shop downtown she'd suggested, neutral ground. My heart hammered as I walked in, the bell jingling softly. The air smelled of fresh grounds and cinnamon. She was at a corner table, nursing a latte, recognizable from the photos, but tired-looking, lines around her eyes I hadn't seen online. She stood when I approached, her hands twisting a napkin. Elena? Her voice was soft, southern accent lilting. I nodded, sliding into the seat across from her. Up close, she was pretty. High cheekbones, kind eyes. Not the villain I'd imagined. Just another woman fooled like me. We talked for hours, halting at first, then pouring out. She told me how they met, at a conference in Atlanta. He was charming, said he was single, recently out of a bad marriage. They dated long distance, then she got pregnant with Caleb. He proposed. They married in a small ceremony. Fake, I realized, since he was still legally mine. He set her up in Savannah, visited often and supported them. He said his job kept him traveling, she whispered, tears welling. I believed him. I shared my side, the years of raising our girls alone during his absences, the trust I'd given freely. We compared timelines, pieced together his lies. By the end, we were both crying quietly, the coffee cold between us. What now? She asked, wiping her eyes. We expose him, I said, together, but quietly, no scenes. We file for divorce, me here, you, well, since it's not legal, you sue for support, fraud, whatever your lawyer says. She nodded slowly. For the kids. For us, I corrected gently. We parted with a hug, awkward but real. Two women bound by one man's deception. Back home, I met with a lawyer discreetly. A friend from the hospital recommended her. Shark, no nonsense. Bigamy's a crime in Illinois, she said, reviewing my folder. But we'll focus on divorce first. Assets, custody. I nodded. I want full custody and half of everything, including the house in Savannah. She smiled faintly. We'll get it. Marcus returned that Sunday, oblivious. I greeted him with a kiss, dinner on the table. Inside, I was steel. The action had begun. Now it was time for the fallout. The fallout didn't come in a storm. It unfolded quietly, like pages turning in a book you'd rather not read but couldn't put down. Tamara and I stayed in touch through encrypted messages, nothing traceable, just updates on lawyers and next steps. She found a good attorney in Savannah, one who specialized in family law and fraud. He's furious on my behalf, she texted one night. Says Marcus could face charges for bigamy. I didn't want prison for him, not really. I wanted him to feel the isolation, the way we'd both felt invisible in our own lives. The papers were served on a crisp fall morning. Marcus was at home, unusually, working from the office upstairs. I'd taken the day off, citing a migraine, but really to watch. The process server knocked at 10 sharp, a nondescript man in a gray suit. I answered the door, my face neutral. "For Marcus Reed," he said, handing over the envelope. I called up the stairs, voice steady. "Honey, something for you." He came down, brow furrowed, tie loose around his neck, took the envelope, signed the receipt. As the man left, he tore it open right there in the foyer, the crinkle of paper loud in the silence. His face drained of color, eyes scanned the pages, divorce petition, asset division, full custody request, and attached, copies of the birth certificates, the bank transfers, photos of Tamara and the kids, everything. "Elena!" His voice cracked, low and disbelieving. He looked up at me, eyes wide like a cornered animal. "What is this?" I stood there, arms crossed, the hardwood floor cool under my bare feet. "You tell me, Marcus, or should I say husband to Tamara Hayes Reed?" He staggered back a step, clutching the papers. "How? I can explain." "Explain?" I kept my tone even, no shouting. The girls were at school, this was between us. "You've had 23 years to explain. Instead, you built a whole other family. Caleb and Lila, your son and daughter, in Savannah, while I raised ours alone half the time." He sank onto the bottom stair, head in hands. "It wasn't supposed to be like this. Tamara, it started as a mistake. After Sophia, you were so tired, and I was away, and—" "Don't," I cut him off softly. "Don't blame me. You chose this. Every flight, every lie." Tears streaked his face now, the man I'd loved looking small and broken. "I love you, Elena, both of you. I didn't want to hurt anyone." "Both of you." The words hung there, twisting the knife. "You hurt everyone," I said. "And now Tamara knows too. She's filing her own suit for child support, emotional distress. The marriage you gave her? Invalid." His head snapped up. "You talked to her?" "Anonymously at first, but then in person. We met, compared notes." I watched the realization dawn, his world crumbling in real time. "Please," he whispered, reaching for my hand. I stepped back. "We can fix this. Counseling. I'll end it with her." I shook my head. "It's already over, Marcus. Pack a bag. You can stay at your mother's until we sort this out." He left that afternoon, suitcase in hand, the same one he'd packed for all those trips. I watched from the window as he drove away, the car turning the corner slowly like he hoped I'd call him back. I didn't. Word spread quietly at first. Rita called that evening, her voice trembling over the line. "Elena, what's going on? Marcus is here crying like a baby. Says you're divorcing him." I took a breath, stirring soup on the stove, the girl's favorite, chicken noodle, bubbling softly. "Sit down, Rita. There's something you need to know." I told her everything, voice calm, facts laid out like cards on the table. The other family, the kids, the lies. She gasped, then went silent. "Oh, Elena, I had no idea. He was always so responsible." "None of us did," I said, "but now we do." She came over the next day, bearing a pie, apple, still warm, the cinnamon scent filling the kitchen. We sat at the table, her hand over mine. "I'm so sorry, dear, for what he's done. You're family to me, always." The girls were next. I waited until bedtime, tucking them together in Sophia's room, the nightlight casting stars on the ceiling. "Daddy's going to be staying with Grandma for a while," I said gently. "Mommy and Daddy are having some grown-up problems." Sophia's eyes widened. "Is he coming back?" I smoothed her hair. "I don't know, sweetie, but we'll be okay. We have each other." Mia clutched her stuffed bear. "Did Daddy do something bad?" "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, big ones, but we love you both so much." They cried a little, and I held them, my own tears silent. That was the hardest part, seeing their confusion, the trust cracking like mine had. At work, whispers started. A colleague who'd known Marcus from company events pulled me aside in the break room, coffee steaming between us. "I heard about the divorce. Is it true he had another—" I nodded once. "It's true." She hugged me and word rippled out. No big scene, just quiet support. Cards in my locker, offers to babysit. In Savannah, Tamra handled her side. She told her kids gently with a counselor's help. Caleb took it hard, angry at first, then withdrawn. Lila was too young to fully understand, but asked why Daddy wasn't coming home. Tamra's family rallied around her. Her sister moved in temporarily, helping with the day-to-day. Marcus tried to fight it at first. His lawyer called mine, pushing for mediation. He wants to reconcile, the voice said over the phone. My lawyer laughed. With which wife? The courts moved slowly, but the evidence was ironclad. Asset hearings revealed more. A secret savings account funneled from his bonuses. Half went to me, the other to Tamra for the kids. The Savannah house? Sold. Proceeds split 3 ways, me, her, and a trust for all 4 children. Publicly, it stayed contained. No tabloid drama, just local ripples. Marcus's job suffered. His boss, learning of the double life, put him on probation. Can't trust a man who lies like that, I overheard from a mutual friend. He called often, begging, Elena, please, I messed up. Let me make it right. I'd listen, then say softly, you had your chance, and hang up. Tamra and I spoke weekly now. Not friends exactly, but allies. The kids want to meet their sisters someday, she said once. Maybe, when they're ready, I replied. The consequence wasn't revenge. It was truth laid bare. Marcus lost his anchors, floating alone in the mess he made. And us, we started to heal, one quiet day at a time. The divorce was final on a gray February morning, the kind where the snow falls soft and silent, covering everything in a thin, clean layer. I sat in the courthouse hallway with my lawyer, hands folded in my lap, while Marcus signed the last papers in another room. No dramatic courtroom scene, just signatures, stamps, and the quiet click of a judge's gavel echoing down the corridor. When it was done, I walked out alone. The cold air hit my face, sharp and cleansing. I stood on the steps for a moment, watching my breath cloud in front of me. 23 years reduced to a folder of documents in my tote bag. But also freedom. Full custody of the girls, the house paid off, a generous settlement that meant I could cut my hospital shifts in half if I wanted. The Savannah house sold quickly. The proceeds were divided fairly. Tamara got enough to stay in her home and cover the kids' needs without worry. Marcus kept his job, barely, but the bonuses stopped. The promotions dried up. People don't trust a man who can lie that smoothly for that long. He moved into a small apartment on the edge of town, 1 bedroom, plain walls, the kind of place that echoes when you walk across the floor. He saw the girls every other weekend at first, supervised visits in public places, parks, museums. Sophia was polite but distant. Mia clung to my leg and asked quietly why Daddy didn't live with us anymore. I never badmouthed him in front of them. He made some grown-up mistakes, I'd say, but he loves you. That part was still true, in his broken way. The healing didn't happen overnight. There were nights I'd wake at 3 a.m., the house too quiet, Marcus's side of the bed cold and untouched. I'd pad downstairs in my robe, make chamomile tea, and sit at the kitchen table where we used to plan vacations that never quite happened the way we dreamed. Some nights the anger came, hot, sudden, making my chest tight. Other nights it was grief for the life I thought we had, for the years I'd spent trusting blindly. I let myself cry then, silent tears into my tea so the girls wouldn't hear. But mornings always came, Sophia's alarm blaring some pop song, Mia's little feet thumping down the hall demanding pancakes. Life insisted on moving forward, and slowly I moved with it. I started small changes, painted the bedroom a soft sage green, something Marcus had always said was too girly, bought new sheets that smelled only of my detergent, took the girls to Rita's every Sunday for dinner. She welcomed us with open arms,
apologizing again and again for her son's choices. "You're the daughter I always wanted," she'd say, squeezing my hand across the table. Her relationship with Marcus strained. She saw him, but the blind pride was gone. Therapy helped. Once a week, an office with warm lamps, and a kind woman who listened without judgment. I talked about the betrayal, the shame I carried for not seeing it sooner. "You trusted," she said gently. "That's not a flaw. His deception was." Over time, the weight lifted, piece by piece. Tamara and I kept in touch, not daily, but enough. Holiday updates, school photos. One spring day, she called. "Guess who just got engaged," she wrote, attaching a photo. Her, beaming, with a nice-looking man holding her hand. In the background, Caleb and Lila grinning. I smiled, genuinely happy for her. "He looks kind," I texted back. "You deserve it." "So do you," she replied. Maybe someday, but for now, I was enough. I looked around at the yard filled with laughter, girls chasing fireflies, Rita arriving with a cake, friends from work waving hello. The house was ours, truly ours. No more waiting for suitcases at the door, no more half-truths over dinner. I'd rebuilt on solid ground this time, and it felt like peace. Quiet, hard-won, but real. And that's my story. From the day that wrong number phone call planted the first seed of doubt to the quiet morning I walked out of the courthouse a free woman, it's been a long road. One filled with more pain than I ever thought I could carry and more strength than I knew I had. I won't tell you it was easy. Some days the betrayal still stings, like a bruise you forget about until you bump it again. But most days now, I wake up to the sound of my girls laughing downstairs, the smell of coffee brewing on its own timer, and sunlight coming through curtains I picked out myself. That's peace. Real peace. Marcus is still around. He sees the children, pays what he owes, lives his smaller life. Tamara found love again, and our kids have grown into siblings who text memes and plan summer visits. None of it is perfect, but it's honest. And honest feels like breathing fresh air after years in a room you didn't realize was stuffy. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Trust your quiet instincts. That little voice that whispers, "Something's off." Listen to it, not with panic, but with patience. Gather your truth gently, protect your heart, and when the time comes, act with dignity. Justice doesn't always have to be loud. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away clean, head high, and build something beautiful on the other side. So I'll ask you the way I always do. What would you have done if you found out your whole marriage was only half the truth? Would you have confronted him that first night? Stayed silent longer? Reached out to the other woman like I did? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and your stories, they remind me I'm never as alone as I once felt. Thank you for listening to mine. If it helped even one of you feel seen, or braver, or less ashamed of your own pain, then sharing it was worth it. Take care of yourselves out there. Until next time.